So Lorraine, how long have you been in the business?
Way too long, honey.
How long is that?
35 years.
35 years. What was it? What
35
was the
years.
first company that you actually worked for?
Remax.
Oh yeah, which one around here?
Remax Bramley. They don't exist anymore, but
Oh,
Remax Bramley, yeah.
how many agents?
Back then,
Yeah, back then.
I couldn't possibly remember. I'm going to say 30, maybe.
Oh, okay. Not hundreds of agents.
No.
Or was it
I don't think there was any brokerage back then that had hundreds of agents until Remax Brampton opened.
And then it got
Then it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And back then, I think there were 17,000 agents in total, not 100,000, right?
Okay, yeah, well, obviously,
Yeah.
it's multiplied many fold over.
Yeah.
But now, when you think of an office like that, back 35 years ago, or even 30 years ago, what did you end up? How was the vibe? Like, what did you end up feeling in that office? Was it a different dynamic than you'd see in an office today?
Not really. I would say no, not really, because we're all independent contractors. We're all doing our own thing.
Right.
What I can see, and it's funny, I talked about this yesterday when I was teaching a class. I think the difference to 30 or 35 years ago versus today is we didn't have the technology and you had to learn everything.
Of course.
Every clause, every comma, every period, every calculation of mortgages, every calculation of land transfer tax, where today, an agent is very, very, very reliant on SkySlope or wherever they're getting their offer from to come up with the clauses for them.
Of course.
And sometimes when I'm teaching, I say things to students, the clause, blah, 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 and they just stare at me like, how do you know that off the top of your head? Because we had handwritten offers.
Yeah. So I guess that collaboration at the office was a lot more important back then, having a good support system or maybe having a good mentor that could teach you the ropes. These days, I guess there's probably videos online, YouTube videos, or, you could probably get SkySlope to do all those calculations for you.
Well, you can get a lot of things to do a lot of calculations for you, and you can definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, get SkySlope to create your offer. But I think it makes the newer agent today lack the actual real knowledge of real estate. I don't think there's any better mentoring than hands-on.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that today, agents have the hard work already done for them, like those calculations and even knowledge of the marketplace and even doing a CMA. A lot of people don't even know how to do a proper CMA. Where I think it's kind of folded over is now you have a lot more, client interaction, and that's become the focus now. Managing your client's expectations, and ultimately that client-facing portion, I think, has become the vast majority of what real estate agents are focusing on, and I think they're lacking in that, and that's what sets you apart from somebody else. I think you have to be kind to your clients. I think you have to be sensitive to their needs,
Of course.
and ultimately, in a world where a lot of the communication is virtual or through text messaging or different apps or, people communicating through social media, that interaction with the client, that face-to-face is where, we really focus on, and having so many touch points and delivering the best service we could possibly give to our clients. And I think that's what sets a really good agent apart and a really good team apart.
100%. I'm still not a fan of text messaging your clients. I talk again about that when I'm teaching agents, and I say, this is how I see texting your client. I see it as, I'm just going to keep texting you. Hey, did you see the property at 123 Smith Street? What do you think? Are you free to go out on Saturday? I'm not building rapport. Rapport is missing from that connection.
Of course.
So it's very easy now for that client who you've spent numerous months with, schlepping them to 35 homes, to just pick up the phone and text you back and say, hey, bought myself a house last night.
Of course.
Rapport is the number one thing for agents to become successful. We're building relationships with people.
Absolutely.
We need to become part of their family, part of their first and foremost in the forefront of their minds when they think of real estate. If I'm just texting you, it could be anybody at the end of that phone. It's really important still to this day, and with technology or without technology, that we have a relationship with that client.
I agree completely. And I find that, you really have to care. And that's what we strive for, is that make the client your friend, really care for them. and care for their situation. And you know what? Don't keep it only business. And maybe that's the reason I was asking how things were 35 years ago. You know, was it a little bit more business? Did you put in more effort into doing that hard work, the calculations, you know, learning exactly how to do it and having to do that extra work for a listing where today you kind of don't have to. All that is done through technology these days. And I think agents have been used to an easier market and a market where you've had, you know, multiple offers almost on everything. If you had a listing, it just sold. And, you know, if you had a buyer, as long as you were the highest bidder, you know, you won that property, and people were kind of throwing money around, you know.
Well, any agent that's sitting in the industry now, let's call it in the past 5 years to today, doesn't really understand real estate because they just came in when we were making money hand over fist, selling everything that we looked at. And now they're sitting back and they actually think if they're making 200 or 250 a year that they're struggling, which is hysterical to me.
Of course.
Because you're not a doctor, so this is still a pretty good living. And they don't have the skills needed to now go out there and nurture those clients to get them to be working with you. They lack that rapport. I call it rapport. You have to build relationships with people.
Absolutely. And so those relationships I find are hard to build, and that's where agents are really struggling. And a really good agent understands that you're working 24/7 and you have to be on 24/7. And sometimes I agree with you, a text message isn't appropriate, but sometimes a nice text message to wish somebody, you know, Happy New Year, or whatever it is still a nice, it's a nice touch point. Yes. But where you really find the people that are successful in this industry today is the people that treat the client's home like it's their home. They treat the client's family like it's their family, and they treat the client's money like it's their money.
Of course.
They're not throwing it around, and they're really taking care and being sensitive to what that family needs.
They're listening.
And they are acting on those wishes. How many times I've heard, you know, I hope they buy the first house I showed them. That's not maybe the right house for them. If it is the right house for them, that's a wonderful thing. But if it's not the right house for them, why would you want them to just buy that first house?
But you're making a commission-based decision.
That's right.
Not a decision that's correct for your client.
Correct. And so these days, especially 2025 forward, which I think now is a new market. I hope it's a renewed market, and things are going to be improving as time goes forward. That's what's really going to set the good teams apart.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right?
100%. The other agents won't survive a difficult market. They don't have the skills. They have technology, but they don't have the actual people skills or the knowledge behind them. You know, another thing I often talk about, you mentioned, you know, we can get a computer to give us a CMA. And I talk a lot about that as well when I'm teaching. There's a million agents out there that don't know the difference between a listing presentation and a CMA.
Of course.
And clearly they're not the same thing. So if you're not on the top of your game, and now every client that you see is interviewing 2, 3, or 4 agents, how are you going to win their business?
Absolutely.
You've got to set yourself apart. You've got to be smarter than everybody else that went through the door.
You have to have a great listing presentation. I hear yours is best in the business.
Thank you.
And that's something that I think sets agents apart, and that sets teams apart, is having the tools for success. But I find that I could win a listing without a listing presentation, and I don't go to a listing without a listing presentation, but I believe I could win one, and I have won them before. It's really about finding what needs that client has, and then filling those needs,
of course,
in one way or another, whether it is through your communication or whether it's through the results that you're promising to deliver that client. Now tell me, Lorraine, what extra tools do you think an agent needs these days, or maybe a team needs these days, in order to set themselves apart from the really, really good teams? So you have really great teams. How do you become the best team?
Well, that's a very, very tricky question to answer, because How do we determine what the best team is? Do we determine that based on dollar volume or on service? To me, being the best agent you can be is all about service and actively listening to the client's requirements. Just as you said a few moments ago, I hope they buy the first home that they see. That's a commission-based sale, not a sale based on the client's needs, wants, or desires. When you're a great listener and you take into account what that client wants, your business will build automatically on referral after referral.
Correct.
But if I was saying to you, how would I build my team to become more successful, it would all be through knowledge and training.
I agree. Knowledge, training. I also find that they need help with social media. They need help with what to share, not to overshare. I think they need a little bit of help with self-image and maybe self-confidence, or that charisma component.
Absolutely.
And that's where doesn't matter who it is. It could be even a seasoned agent. They really need to put a lot of effort into themselves. The best investment you can ever make is into yourself.
Into yourself, 1,000%.
And it's knowledge and it's skills. It's self-image, how you perceive yourself. And if you walk into that listing presentation and you want it, you're gonna win it.
Of course.
And if you go in with doubt and you don't know if it's the right fit, or you're worried about who's going to be coming in or after you, or who was in before you, or you pull up and you see the shark in the neighborhood, which is with cars pulling out, and you go, oh no, how am I going to compete against that?
So what
guy?
do they do now when they say that? What's the first thing that agent does when they're doing their presentation? When they're worried about getting it,
You tell me.
they cut their commission.
Always they cut their commission.
Fear will make you cut your commission.
Always.
Better I get 4% than no percent.
That's right.
Because you don't know your value, you don't know your worth, and you don't know what you're
right.
bringing to the table.
And they don't know if the guy in front of them cut the commission or
Exactly.
didn't, or if the guy cut the commission after them. Right?
Exactly. 1,000%.
And you'll find that certain families, they'll actually, they'll bring up commission. Everybody always does. Well, maybe not everybody, but pretty close. And when they actually bring it up, they almost bring it up as a question. And they wait for you to either prove your case on whether that commission of 5% is worth it or not worth it, or whether you'll drop it right away. And you're absolutely right. An agent which is operating out of fear instead of, instead of out of power, and instead of out of love, I would call it.
Yes, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I say this phrase, show your value first and ask for your professional fee last. I don't even call it commission. I'm a professional. It's a professional fee.
That's right.
But when I show you value of what I bring to the table for you and your family, you won't question my professional fee. 5%, 4.5, it won't make any difference to you because you know what you're getting for your dollar.
Yeah, it won't make any difference.
No, none.
Do you think we will be entering into a time where commissions will be more and more under fire? In the United States, there was the lawsuit, the NAR lawsuit, the famous lawsuit, which was lost. And commissions are starting to come under fire. Now it'll take a little bit of time to kind of, trickle through the system. But, how do you feel about that in the Canadian market?
Well, a lot of what I read on NAR and what I know about NAR, and you can just go onto social media and look at everybody freaking out about the buyer commission and they're not paying me enough. And
Of course.
first of all, I try never to engage in a lot of anything that's negative, and that's very negative to me. I won't be in the business long enough coming up for it to make a huge impact in my life. But are people aware in this economy of how much money we're getting paid? Of course.
Yeah.
Of course they are.
Of course.
That's why I teach value first, professional fee last. Every agent is going to do what works for them when they get in the door. I'm not a commission cutter. I'm very clear on that. I don't do it. I invite people into my office. You can go through every listing that I have. I don't cut commission. Same as, I look at our industry the same as if I was going out to buy a car. A Mercedes and a Hyundai aren't the same vehicle. And that's how agents are. So if I'm sitting with a seller, a prospective seller, and they've told me up front, we're going to interview 3 agents after you. There is a sheet in my listing presentation that talks about that. Talks about comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges, and how you should be asking every agent exactly the same questions and ensuring that you're getting exactly the same value for what you're paying for them. I'll use an example. For example, people say to me, oh, I staged that home. Well, no, it was 3 throw cushions, a throw blanket, and 1 print. When I talk about staging a home, I'll bring you a dining room suite if you don't have one, or a living room set if you don't have one. This isn't the same value. So people have to understand what they're getting for their money. If we go out in the world outside of real estate, and I need a heart operation, I'm not going to go to the cheapest guy. I want to ensure that my life is okay. And I feel exactly the same way about real estate. This is your largest investment. Let me protect your money. I keep a sales book when I go into your house where you can look through 300-400 sales to see what did I list at and what did I get and how long did it take me to do that. I'm going to show you that whatever I tell you, I'm actually going to do. I'm not here just for the commission. I'm investing in your life to bring you to your next level of memories. We're memory makers. We help people get to a destination that they want to go to. Yes, we get paid to do it, but there's a lot more to the job than what the public just sees in, let's slap on a lockbox, put a sign on your lawn, and hey, I'll see you when I have an offer. If you're a great agent and you're, rising up the scale, your biggest interest is to protect their money.
100%. 100%. I find also negotiation skills are lacking amongst agents. And presentation is...
How much will you take for that house? First question. Have you been there, sir?
Yeah.
No. Well, why are we talking about money on the phone?
Yeah.
Maybe it's worth more when you see it.
That's right.
There is no negotiation skill out there unless you're a really, really good realtor.
That's right. And you've had to have had experience.
Yes.
You've had to have had hundreds of deals that you negotiated on
100%.
and won against some of the top agents that are there in the business.
Yes.
And that's what I think also, sets great teams and great agents apart from some of the other guys.
When you're doing multiple offers, have you noticed the trend now? You'll get 12 offers on a property. 8 of them are under asking price.
Of course they are.
Why are you here? Why did you waste your ink, your paper, and your time? And how did you advise your client that that's what they should be doing? And now they're devastated that they didn't get a home that they really, really wanted because of $50,000. So I always flip the coin. I mean, I work mainly with sellers. I am a listing agent. But when there are buyers, I also didn't do my job if I couldn't negotiate for you on the buying end to get you the home that you really wanted.
Of course.
You need to have pertinent information from your agent in that department as well.
Absolutely.
And saying, hey, let's just try this isn't the right answer.
Nobody's happy not winning the bid.
Nobody.
And as much as real estate value is subjective, I believe at the end of the day, it is within a range objective.
Of course.
And so if a piece of real estate, whichever property we're actually looking at, has a value of $2.5 million, then coming in at 1.7 is both insulting to the seller and insulting to the buyer.
Yes.
If the asking price is 2.5, then, it has to be within some realm of possibility. And, agents that take overpriced listings, I think, are doing the market a disservice as well.
And underpriced listings. Just to drive, multiple offers and to get everybody through the door. And you now have 40 really disappointed clients that thought they could possibly get that home.
That's right.
And it was just a tactic to raise the price up.
Correct.
I don't agree with that either.
Yeah. There is no transparency in real estate.
And there should be.
I believe there should be. I mean, it is something which is, like you mentioned, most families' biggest asset.
Yes.
It is something which, is memories, family memories, and to treat it as if it's, a blind auction, which is what it is oftentimes, I find is something that is, it takes away from that. It takes away
Yes.
from the fact that it's a home, and it takes away from the fact that the value at the end of the day should be objective, and there should be a more transparent process through which people can understand what their chances are of winning, and are they going to be disappointed at the end of the day. I find that that's been the case for the last decade or so, is disappointment. It's been disappointment on behalf of the buyers, which have been disappointed in multiple offer situations over and over and over again. And it's been oftentimes disappointment on the sellers, at least in the last couple of years, where they were expecting a certain value and then that value isn't there. And you'll find an agent which doesn't stand out from the crowd, walks in, takes that overpriced listing, puts the sign on the lawn, just so they hope they get a sign call. Maybe somebody else is kind of, coming along. And, we spoke, I guess, earlier in this podcast about being a professional and speaking about professional fees and professional services. And if you're gonna treat yourself like a professional, then the industry has to uphold that.
I agree. I completely agree with that.
So that's something we strive for. We strive for professionalism above all else. We do look at every home as the family's biggest investment, and every single time you've put up a listing, I'm sure you deliver exactly on what you've told them. And markets can change, situations can change, objectives can change. Sometimes families decide partway through that they're gonna change their mind, or something happens. But ultimately, in a balanced market, it's easier to deliver that. Can you share your thoughts on what does that look like in like a really, really hot market? So now things are flying off the shelf. There's no supply or little supply, and how do you tell that family what they're gonna get? How do you tell them what price they could expect to see when things are appreciating very, very quickly, like we saw a few years ago?
A few years ago, we saw a lot of that. I have a listing actually that I keep in my sold binder that I listed out in Milton at $2 million, and I sold it the same day for 2.8.
Wow, what a story.
Can you determine that's going to happen? No. But I'm going to tell you, I had the happiest clients I think I'd ever met, and I was so happy for them. They were retiring. Financially, they needed that extra money, so it was really a wonderful story. But could I have guessed or surmised that I could get you that much more? No. In the back of my mind, I might have said, maybe 100, maybe 200. It's a good property, but 800 in a day.
Wow. And how many offers did you have on that, Lorraine?
16 offers in one day.
16 offers in one day.
In one day.
I bet the buyers were happy.
I just did nothing but sit at a table covered in paper, just calling, texting. Eventually the price, I think we sold at about 2.895 from a $2 million list.
Wow. In one day?
In one day.
Tell me this. I just heard you bring up a kind of a pretty valid point and a pretty cool part of real estate. How often are you in face-to-face negotiation now?
Yeah. As much as I possibly can be.
Of course. Are you finding that as a listing queen, are you seeing a lesser trend of agents showing up face-to-face to do that negotiation face-to-face?
It's almost zero.
It's almost zero, right?
And you know what I don't like about that? It's that, again, I'm all about rapport. I want to build rapport with you. And again, you're so excited. I call you and I say, Paul, I've got an offer on your home. I'm so excited. What time can I come and see you tonight? 7 p.m. Perfect. I get to participate in the excitement when we're sold. When I call you and I say, I'm going to DocuSign that over to you, take a look through it, you don't even know what you're reading. I need to explain to you what all of this means.
Of course.
It's not the same situation at all. And I've seen agents all over, from all over, all brokerages say to me, my people were really upset. They didn't realize they had to leave that antique bathroom mirror because you docu-signed that over and they read it, what they can read because it's so quick. And even if you're docu-signing it, would you not send it in a non-docu-sign format first and read it on the phone with them? They're just sending it over. People are going click, 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 done.
That's it. People, they're taking an easy way out. They're not building those relationships with people, and they're not having their client's best interest in mind. The quicker they sign it,
The better.
the quicker I earn that commission,
Yeah.
and the quicker I can move on to my next sale.
But I'm
right?
I'm a referral girl. I want your referrals.
Of course.
When you pop open the champagne that night because you're happy, I want to be there having a glass with you. I want you to remember this moment with me, so that when you want a house for your children or your, your sister, brother, whoever is going to be in that referral network, that I'm at the forefront of your mind. She was fantastic. She sat with us. She read through everything. We understood everything. It is not the same thing when it's all online at all.
I know. We're losing that personal connection with people, and I find that the days of, agents coming in to present an offer, those days oftentimes are done.
We lost that with buyer representation.
We did, and oftentimes, even when there is a listing, and I'm going back a few years when multiple offers were obviously much more common, you'll have a bunch of agents show up at the house and you'll have the offer presentation, but sometimes the offer that wins didn't even show up. It's just the highest offer, got emailed in, and obviously the sellers accepted the offer because it was the highest one, it was likely firm.
Yep.
And so all of that effort was put in by those other agents, and the one with the highest bidder oftentimes didn't even have to do it.
No.
And there should be maybe a little bit of like a courtesy, if somebody is going to list and emailed offers are allowed, I find that if you are face to face and you can speak to the family that's selling the home and you can speak to the listing agent, you might pull on their heartstrings. They, you might be able to explain why, your offer is the better offer to choose. But I guess in a world where a house can go from 2 million to 2.95 or 2.895 or whatever the sale price was, that's very, very difficult. That's very, very difficult to do. Ultimately, sellers are looking at their bottom line, and I think a lot of that is lost. But it's something that I wish were to come back.
It also lost the connection that we had together as agents.
That's right.
Because we used to work together.
That's right.
If something was wrong, I could call you and say, Paul, listen, they're okay with the offer, but now nobody talks to each other.
That's right.
You work for them, they work for him. There's no communication even with the other agent, I find.
That's right.
Very little. If there's any, it's very little.
That's right. Now, talking about teams and talking about maybe bigger brokerages, and how do you train people to take that extra step, to go the extra mile, in a world where fast is considered better. Sometimes even sellers just say, just DocuSign it over to me and I'll do it. How do you train those agents to go, to keep that connection alive, and to ultimately build the business, better and stronger through personal interactions and touch points, as I like to call them, versus just being the next listing agent or being the next buyer's agent?
Well, I think that all agents have to understand. I mean, we can't make anybody do anything. Even when I'm training, if you come into my academy and I train you several times during that academy, I'll say, I can give you 30 years worth of knowledge, but I can't make you do it.
Yeah, correct.
You have to want to do that in the first place. You have to want to better your skills and build your brand bigger, whatever it is you come to me wanting to do. You've got to have the need. I'll often say to agents, you'll spend, let's say I spent $2,000 getting postcards for the month, and it's going to cost me another $2,000 to do the mailer. So you'll spend $4,000 randomly sending out something in the mail, along with the other 30,000 agents that are doing that, but you don't invest any money in your education. So how will you become anything other than who you are if you don't increase your knowledge?
Right, right. Very difficult to do, right?
Very difficult to do. I teach in my academy what I call strictly theory, okay? Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I teach everything other than theory. Everybody knows the theory. Everybody knows I have to have a farm area, I have to door knock, I have to get an open house, got to get a listing, got to get a buyer, but they don't know how.
That's right.
They don't know what to say when they have it. They don't know what works when they get those things. I get a call, I have an opportunity, and I call every opportunity when we talk a $25,000 opportunity. Because really, we don't have any product under $1 million today.
Very few.
So every call you take is a $25,000 opportunity. Every open house you do is a $25,000 opportunity.
Certainly.
Do you not think you should be prepared?
Yeah.
Because if I was a regular blue collar worker, 2 of those opportunities equals my entire year's pay.
That's right.
So I better be on the top of my game, knowing exactly what I should be talking about. And why am I talking that way? Why do those things matter to buyers or sellers?
Correct.
And again, I believe in the referral system. The more knowledgeable you are, the better you treat your clients, the better you do for your clients, the more likelihood it is that you will get repeat and referral business. I'm going on a listing presentation tomorrow morning. It'll be my 6th listing from one transaction, one open house. I should rephrase that, from one open house. You don't just go to an open house as a newer agent and, well, first of all, newer agents are just kind of hanging out and here's my cell phone, clickety click, click, click. People are wandering, nothing's happening. It's a $25,000 opportunity. Why am I not taking advantage of that?
Yeah, yeah. Why am I not taking advantage of that, right? And why don't you treat each open house guest like a new client?
Of course.
You know,
Because they could be your next client.
they could be your next client.
They could be your next client.
If they like you, if they trust you, they could be your next client.
Yes.
And I find that, agents don't put in the effort. They don't showcase the home. They stay reserved back and oftentimes they drop the ball.
Mm-hmm. Take a look through. I'm here if you have any questions. Oh, you're done? Oh, bye. Thanks for stopping in.
That's it. Rarely do they even take the person's contact. If they did, maybe they don't even reach out. If it's a reach out, it's a poor reach out.
Yep.
Right? It's a poor
Agreed.
reach out.
Agreed.
So those days of open houses look like they're coming back.
Mm-hmm.
The days where...
We do open houses every weekend. Always.
Wow.
Always.
All over the place.
Wherever those listings are, it's a fantastic opportunity. Not just for your seller to be showcasing their property, but also for you to be getting other clients.
Of course.
So I think that it should be mandatory to take open house training.
Yeah, agreed.
So that you know how to convert those attendees into prospective clients.
Agreed. How do you find the market today?
Soft, very soft still. I do see a slight improvement, no question. I think that people, there's 2 sides of the fence. People are scared. It's a scary economy. Things have really risen in price and people are worried about their dollar. And I think that's also why they're more particular in who they're hiring.
Yeah.
And they want more knowledge because they are worried about their largest investment.
Yeah.
But I think we'll see 2025 being a much better year than 2024.
I agree. I think things are improving and there is more supply than what we're used to. I think come spring market, we're going to see a little bit more of that supply, but interest rates have come down and it's a little bit less scary than what it was in 2024. So we hope to see, much of that kind of work its way through the system and ultimately, I think there's more business to be had in 2025
I agree.
for agents. And does anybody have to do anything different? Does anybody have to do anything different this
They
year?
have to work harder.
They have to work harder.
They have to work harder to make the same or more money. They definitely have to work harder. You know, when we were booming from COVID onward, really, how hard did you have to work? I mean, things were just flying off the shelf for more money than you ever dreamt that the people would get. Now, I call this a regular market. To me, this is a regular market from 30 years ago, when houses lasted on the market anywhere between 90 and 120 days.
Right.
And you had to work that property. A lot of agents aren't used to that. They don't have the experience to know how to do that. So you've got to market your property more, you've got to work it more, and you as an agent have to work a lot harder to get more business to ensure that your income isn't rapidly dropping.
Right.
Now, on another note, I hear from a little bird that works in your office that you're looking to expand your staff in there.
Absolutely. We've built a great company. We've built an incredible sales team, and we're ready to grow. We have all the skills, all the experience, all the tools that anybody could possibly need to succeed in real estate. Our focus for many, many years had been working with investors or families that had been, looking to invest some of their equity or some of their earnings into rental properties or into investment properties or perhaps into vacation properties. And vacation properties are something which, existed many, many years ago. Everybody had a cottage or, some extra property somewhere else. But because of the rapid rise in real estate prices, I find that a lot of families have taken a back seat to that dream. And that's something that builds those same memories that we spoke about. And that's something that's phenomenal investment value over time. With the rise of Airbnb and short-term vacation rentals, it can be a wonderful income stream while still giving you the ability to use it when you want.
Yes, definitely.
So we did expand to the United States, and we had a clear focus on short-term vacation rentals in and around the state of Florida. And we find that Canadian families love that. They love the ability to earn extra income while they're not using it, and be able to use it when they want to, share it with their family, share it with their friends. And, I think some of that perspective has changed over time. And, that's what we have as a framework, and that's who we've trained, and that's who we've ultimately shared our experience with. And we're looking to share it with more agents, more teams. Anybody that wants to come onto our side, we'll be able to really utilize all that experience that we've had, and we hope to really attract some wonderful teams, wonderful agents. And whether they're new to the business or seasoned, I find that everybody's looking for that change. They're looking for where that money is going to be coming from. And if you can diversify your offering and you can have a little bit more complex conversations with some of your say a client pool, that's where you also stand out from the rest.
Yes.
So, families may be interested in a property outside the city or perhaps a property somewhere internationally, and most agents can't offer that. And they don't have that knowledge base, and they don't have that inventory to be able to show them. We have everything in-house. And oftentimes, that can supplement a transaction, which you call the $25,000 opportunity. It could become a $50,000 opportunity or a $75,000 opportunity. So, we set ourselves apart because we have such a large offering of product that you can have conversations with, but ultimately it's on you to be able to offer that to the right people. And when you do, well, they love you even more for it. And you spoke about referrals. Well, that's where referrals really come from. If somebody has, purchased a property outside of the city or purchased something else internationally, oftentimes they're going to call their friends. They're going to let them know what a wonderful decision they made. And that may lead to more of that business, right? So I find that setting yourself apart is knowledge-based, of course, but it's also, understanding what you could propose to somebody, because oftentimes that person that you're sitting in front of, or that person that's on the phone, doesn't even know you have it. And you spoke of that situation where, you know, all of a sudden you see the client, they go, oh, I just bought that house yesterday. Well, yeah, that's because they didn't think of you as the first contact point for that.
Mind, yes.
Right. And that's where we differentiate ourselves, because we've done thousands upon thousands upon thousands of transactions, all in different segments of real estate. And we can offer that to agents. We can offer that to teams. And it's easy for them. We make everything easy for them.
So if I was a new agent, I just graduated from real estate school, and I was coming to see you, I'm looking to pick a brokerage. Tell me something that makes you stand out as a reason why I should sign with your brokerage.
I think we have a totally different image in the market than any other brokerage you could compare us to. The big brands are similar. They do offer a little bit of nuances and some differences, but our brokerage is a wonderful place. We treat our agents like their family, and having a good offering and having the ability to be able to talk to different clients or prospective clients with regards to what they could be looking at is a phenomenal conversation starter. So if you have, an agent that's just starting out, and they don't have a long client list or a long contact list, they're looking to meet people. They may already know which people they could reach out to, but if they call them and they say, hey, I'd like to list your house, they're going to be competing against the Lorraine Mondellos of the world. And why would that family choose to hire this young agent when they can choose a seasoned professional like yourself? I think that's the difference, where perhaps if they can have a conversation with them about something else that they didn't necessarily expect, or something that they might now be thinking about, they might now look at that agent as a great opportunity to treat their whole real estate business. And so I think professionalism is number one, but I think having a great product offering and being able to engage in those conversations with people is something that agents can see a whole lot of success early on in their careers. We find that you have to walk before you run.
Of course.
But ultimately, a new agent is really, really looking to gain success fast. If somebody has put in all that money and time into getting their real estate license, and now they're looking to get out of the gate, if they get into a brokerage and they don't see success early on, they're gonna feel discouraged, and they may drop out of the business. And they may
generally do.
They do, and they may still be very well suited for that business, but they just didn't have the right start. They didn't have the right start. So I find that having those conversations with people is a great thing to do. We also provide people with leads, and I find that if you don't list, you don't last. So having sell side leads and having the ability to actually sell those leads, or at least engage in conversations with those leads, perhaps about something else that those leads may want, and learning how to convert those leads and turning them into long-term clients, is something that really builds a business, and it really builds a brokerage. And that's what we've done over the last decade or so, and that's what we're looking to do for the next decade, is give agents those tools, give them that training, and then inspire that confidence, which can lead them to really successful careers. And these days, leads are hard to come by, and good leads are hard to come by. And we've invested a lot of money into being able to generate high quality sell side leads, which turn into listings, and oftentimes turn into clients, and oftentimes, turn into referrals, right? And so I think having all of those bases covered is so important. Otherwise, you're relying on the person's network, which they may or may not have a strong network, And just because you don't have a strong network doesn't mean you're not going to be tremendously successful.
Exactly.
Somebody that comes with a large network may be, unsuccessful. So young agents, I think, have a lot of work to do. And when they're choosing a brokerage and they're choosing a brand to go with, they should do what feels right, but they should ultimately do what they believe will earn them the most money. And I find these days everybody is so concerned about the splits. Everybody's competing on dollars and cents, really. And, that's not the right approach.
No.
If you can go with a company that has, a slightly worse split, but you can generate double the sales.
Exactly. What does the split mean?
It's in the bag. It's no different than 5% or 4.5%.
Exactly.
It doesn't make a difference to you, but you have to prove that value.
Yes.
So we encourage everybody to come in and sit down with us for a cup of coffee and understand exactly what sets us apart from everybody else. And we find that we really do win against the big brands, and we really are a different company than everybody else in the business, which is something that's refreshing to us, because we know we've done such a great job doing this. But it's engaging in those conversations with people, and ultimately it's ultimately about caring.
How many people would you like to see your brokerage recruit in 2025?
I think we'd like to see maybe about 50 people or so.
Wow, big number. Big number.
I think those are with 50 total, I would say, amongst all the agents that we've already got. And we're looking to meet the right people, not people that
Not just people.
The right agents, the ones that want to achieve success, not the ones that sit on the sidelines and carry a license for no transactions or few transactions. We like to see people that want to work and want to communicate with others. And I think we're on the right track. And I think everybody's been, pretty discouraged by the market in the last little while, and they're looking to improve their business. They're looking to improve their incomes, and we'd love to go on that journey with them. And these days, world's changed, market's changed, and there are 100,000 realtors now, which is a big number.
Oh, is it ever?
Is it ever, right?
Is it ever?
And I find that that's going to be a challenge to set yourself apart and to really, be able to drive that value and showcase your value versus, walking in and thinking that the brand is everything, right?
Well, people don't really, people understand brand, I think. I've experienced that myself as a realtor. But ultimately, they're hiring you.
That's right.
They don't even really understand when they're signing a listing agreement that it's with a brokerage. They think it's with you.
Correct.
You're their person.
You're the brand.
Yeah, you're the brand. Exactly. So what could I do today to help you recruit those agents? Could I do something that would make that easier for you?
It's conversations. Conversations with people who want to change or are interested in listening to a different approach and to something that's going to improve their business in a really material way. I find that if somebody's at a big brand, oftentimes they don't switch to another big brand. They switch maybe to a more boutique brokerage, or, something that's going to drive more value and showcase more of themselves versus, standing behind the brand and having the brand do the work. They also want a little bit of a different offering maybe than what everybody else has got in the business. And so in order to, recruit agents, you really need to interview agents. You need that phone to ring, or you need to make those calls, and you need to have those meetings. You need to have those coffees, and you need to show that you are better than everybody else.
Do you ever host, for example, an open house for agents in the afternoon at your brokerage where they can just come in and mingle and talk to people and see what's going on? Have you ever thought of that approach?
Yeah, we did a lot of that over the years, and sales meetings and having, people come in, and the way that people utilize office space now has changed. And because everything is DocuSign and everything can be done from your kitchen table, oftentimes they're not coming in, and we find that's something that's missing. So we do encourage people to utilize the office. We do encourage people to come in and share their experiences, and that may come back. That may
I do
come
that.
back.
I work from an office in a building.
Yeah.
I don't
as do
ever
we.
work from home.
Yeah, and
But I'm referring more to a recruiting day, inviting agents to a recruiting day where they get to mingle, not one at a time, where they get to mingle and talk and just get a feel for what it is you're offering. Have you ever done it that way?
we have, and with mixed success over the last few years, of course, because the market was tough, and I think everybody was just staying put. That's something that we're bringing back now, and we're bringing back in-office training and really getting people in through the door, and we've got a beautiful space set up for it, and we hope that that's going to attract a lot of people into
Good.
our space. I don't know how quickly people are going to be coming back to the office, although
I see a trend for that. I'll tell you. I mean, we're only in the third week of January, but on my training website, I, of course, can see every person going in and out of there, what they're looking at, what they're looking for. And just in the last, I think Matthew and I were discussing last night, in the last week, we've probably had 50% more volume than normal. And a lot of people looking at, hey, what is this listing presentation? What is this? So I think we are going to see things go a little bit more back to basics. And I'm a true believer. And I know the newer crowd thinks it's very old fashioned, but you learn a lot more when you're working in-house. You hear things you wouldn't hear. You have the ability to immediately say, sorry, Paul, could you just explain that to me? Instead of waiting, call me back. I've sold homes to people just from being in an office and hearing somebody talk about their new listing coming up and saying, oh, wow, I think I have somebody for that house, and done the deal. There's a lot to be said still for working inside your brokerage.
I agree. Less and less we've seen that be the case. And like I said, most people can make a phone call, send an offer through DocuSign, and make that commission. And coming into the office is not something that people put at the forefront. We hope to see that coming back. We really hope to see that coming back, because business is done at the office. And then, bringing in clients in for face-to-face meetings, sitting around a boardroom table and sharing exactly what you've, found, and taking the time to do that.
Building rapport.
We hope those days are coming back, and there are positive trends that may be the case, but how many offices around the city, real estate or otherwise, sit empty these days?
I know.
And that hasn't come back the way that people maybe have predicted or hoped, and it might come back.
I think it's headed that way a little bit. I feel that I see that a little bit stronger than I did in the last 2 years, where people are realizing maybe just being in my home all day waiting for the phone to ring is not as lucrative as I thought it was going to be. I mean, I'm in the industry, over 35 years, and I'm in my office, which is not in my home, in a RE/MAX building at 7:30 in the morning every day of the week.
Great, I know. That's the way to do it, and that's what drives success, and that's what ultimately sets you apart from somebody else, is that effort that you put in, and it's that routine that people have to get back into.
Routine is very important. It's the same as when you're training or talking to people about what do they have to do. It's consistency that's key in this industry.
Of course.
And consistency is not rolling out of bed at 11 a.m. with my hair sticking up, hoping I can find coffee, and maybe I'm going to start working at 1 o'clock.
That's right. That's right. Now, tell me this. We have 100,000 agents and not so many transactions that everybody can earn, the type of money that they want to earn. And, oftentimes people use family members or friends, but that may or may not be the best choice for you. That may or may not be the right way to build your empire or purchase a home or do whatever it is that you're looking to do in the real estate market. So we were always hoping that the industry would become more professional as a whole, and agents would carry themselves with professionalism and ultimately set themselves apart by the services that they can offer. And how do we bring that back? How do we bring back professionalism in the industry as a whole?
That is one hard question to answer, because if I was being very truthful, I don't think we can. We live in such a world with freedom of this and freedom of that, and freedom to do whatever you want. And we've gotten into this routine over COVID with all of these people working at home and not wanting to commit to going back into the office space, because it's got to be a lot easier. I mean, if I was here now doing it, I'd be making spaghetti sauce and baking a cake, and it wouldn't all be about real estate, but I would have accomplished a lot more in that time frame. I just know myself as an individual, in order for me to work the best way for me, I need to be in that office environment. I need to separate those two things. I go to work every morning looking like a professional. Somebody could walk into my office wanting to do a transaction 5 minutes later.
Of course.
And again, when I'm teaching, I talk a lot about that. About dressing for success, looking like a successful person. You're hiring a professional to do this job, and yet I run into agents all the time. I remember giving somebody an open house to do that was mine, and I went to see how it was going, just on a whim. And this woman was there in her short shorts and her little top. It's never happening again in the history of your career with me.
Yeah.
That is not the representation of my name. I'm a professional person. You can't be going to work looking like that. But to get our industry as a whole back on the professional level that you and I are talking about, one, I think it would have to start at the root of the brokerages. I mean, we've got everybody above us, the Ricos and the Trebs and Arias, but they can't make us do that.
That's right.
But the brokerage sets the standard to me. Where you're working sets the standard of what you should be thinking that you want to portray for the rest of your career. I mean, if I was interviewing today a broker, those are the things that I'd be looking for. To me, it's very important what your office looks like, because I work at professional level and I do bring people into the office. That's where I want you to come. Let's have a coffee, talk about what we're going to see on Saturday.
You know what, Lorraine, we'd love to invite you to our office. We have an unbelievably professional office space with a beautiful, huge room where training takes place and, agents can mingle. We have private offices, we have desks, and we have big glass gold, boardrooms. And, we encourage everybody to bring that back.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. It's the missing link, I think, to a lot of what realtors understand. And again, I always feel so old-fashioned when I say, back in the day, but I never put anybody in my car that hadn't sat in my office with me 2-3 times going through their needs and their wants list and what can I do for you. Now the phone rings and somebody says, hey, I want to see 123 Smith Street. You drop what you're doing, you run over there and show it. Well, who are you? I don't know who you are. I don't know if you can get a mortgage. Why would I be doing that?
You're absolutely right.
Those are the steps that are lacking. in what's going on out there. And we may have 100,000 agents today, but my guesstimate would be in the next 5 years, we're under 30,000. That's how I feel about that number. And only the professional ones are going to survive. Only the knowledgeable ones are going to survive. Why do 1% of all the realtors on Treb make all the money? One, it's because they're list to last agents and they get that concept. A lot of people don't get that concept. I love buyers. It's easier, no hassle, no staging, no blah, blah, blah. Not in my world. You have to know how to list homes.
And sell homes.
And sell them, of course, and sell them. But again, I'd be looking for a brokerage that is going to give me that training, that talk, that experience of this is what it should be like. And I think training should go from just talking to actual mentorship. There's nobody that's ever worked on my team that didn't come on every listing appointment with me. My success is your success. That's how that's supposed to work.
Of course. Of course.
I'm not here not to share all of my knowledge because I'm not afraid you're going to steal my business. I'll tell you anything that you want to know about the real estate industry. And I'll help you get there as long as you're following the steps that I give you. I had a fun time the other day teaching a class with them. If I had a whiteboard here, I'd do it for you. But they're all saying to me, well, I can't get leads. I don't know how to get leads. You know, leads don't come through the brokerage as quickly as we thought they would. And a lot of people, I get that when they're new and the brokerage says, oh, we give you leads. Well, my particular brokerage has 950 agents. It's a small village. Getting a lead, you might be waiting a while. And I said, well, what are you doing to get leads? So we talk about the leads and what we're doing. And of course, everybody said, well, I don't have the money to do that. And I don't have the money to do this. And I said, okay, I'm going to show you some really simple math. And I'm going to tell you today what it is. More effective, of course, if I had the whiteboard, but I break it down into 5 departments. 5 or 6, I think I did. I've got my sellers, my buyers, my farming, my open houses, my sphere of influence, and door knocking. And I said, here's what I'm going to ask you to do for me, and I want you to do it for me. They're in class with me for another 2 weeks. I said, and this is simple, and I'm going to tell you exactly how long this is going to take you. I want you to call 5 sellers a day. I'm not cold calling. These are people that we're doing business with. 5 buyers, whether that you've already sold them or whether they're still going to buy from you, 5 down the road, okay? 5 people from an open house. Don't care if they came to the open house last year. I want you to call them up or text them. If you're afraid to call because you have the look of fear on your face, they might answer. God forbid they answer that phone. Text them. Just say, hey, was thinking about you. Don't know if you remember me. We met at an open house at 123 Smith Street. So we've got 5 down that. And I said, and in total, and all you have to do is door knock 5 homes. That's it. So I'm going to give you 2 hours a day to accomplish all that, which would be way too much time because the text is literally 30 seconds. And I showed them if I multiplied that by the weeks and by the month, at the end of the year, you made 15,000 contacts. And they're just staring at me. I go, no, it's 15,000 contacts that you would not have made had I not told you to do this. So 2 days passes by, and every morning I ask, did you do this? Did you? Yes, they show me, here's the list, who's your call, I text, I blah, blah, blah. They told me what happened, that people answered, they didn't answer. And the next day, one of the gentlemen comes in, he goes, oh my God, I got 2 listing appointments. I said, imagine. How could that happen? Imagine if you did all 15,000 of those.
What you put in was what you get out, right?
Exactly.
Every single time.
Everybody waits for the phone to ring. It's not going to ring. You've got to work.
That's right.
All the numbers. This is a numbers game.
It always has been and it always will be.
Always will be. Consistency is key. So yes, I want to go to a brokerage where the broker's going to sit me down and say, we're going to get you on track. We're going to help you get there. Of course, you have to do the work. If you don't do the work, don't come back and cry to me.
Right.
But most agents need serious guidance. They come into an industry. Why does everybody come into this industry? We can lie and say it's because we love houses. No, we came here to make money. That's what we're doing here.
That's right.
It's a very lucrative business if you're good at it.
That's right.
But most agents need structure. They don't know once they get a key to that office door what to do. When I was a new agent, and I do remember the fear of that, I'd go in and I'd open the office door and I would sit down. I think, okay, well, what now? Well, I'll kill some time. I'll get a coffee.
Of course. Of course.
I didn't know what to do.
Pick up the phone.
Just frozen like a deer in the headlights. How am I going to make money? Oh my God, I'm going to get a bill at the end of the month and have to pay rent. And I didn't make any money. I'm a great motivator, so I realized pretty quickly I better get some transactions. And I didn't have training. All my success came through trial and error. Today we have brokerages that offer training, mentorship. This is where you need to be working, where people are going to help you. And that they genuinely care about your success. Again, their success is your success.
Absolutely.
It shows everything about the integrity of the broker.
100%. 100%.
So I hope you get all of those recruits this year.
Thank you so much.
And I am going to come down and see your office.
I'm excited. We'd love to have you.
I'd love to see it. I'll do it for sure. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Anytime. It was my pleasure.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.